Hello. Hi, April here.
April, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Hello.
Hi, April. It's Kelly. Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to somewhat meet you. How are you doing, Kelly?
Okay, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. We've got a little sun today, and that always makes things a lot nicer.
Yes, I agree. We had bad rainstorms yesterday. Now it's sunny today down here, so it is nice.
Where are you located?
I'm in Florida too. I'm like an hour north of Josh.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. I'm
Yeah.
jealous. I'm in the cold Northeast here on Cape Cod, but I'm not allowed to complain. So,
I grew up in Connecticut. I didn't realize you were in Cape Cod.
yeah, close enough.
Okay.
It's all good. We're just fortunate to be here and very grateful to be able to connect. It's a very nice thing.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you again for doing this. Or, like we're trying to explore just different avenues of, communicating our message of hope, since we can't do, our job in person. So I wanted to just interview you about your just thoughts about what's going on right now, and, what can we pull from previous disasters that's helpful today, if possible.
Right.
Despite, even though it's like there's no seemingly end date.
No, it's a tricky virus. It's going to be very different, really, than anything we've seen.
Yeah, it's like nothing we've really, I think, we haven't seen in like ever, at least in this generation.
At least in our lifetimes, yeah.
Yeah. And just any examples of hope you've seen so far, or, hope and healing.
Absolutely. There's been so much going on, and I'm so happy to see the outpouring. There you are. So happy to see the outpouring of people helping each other. It is one of those things that we
Hey everybody, welcome to Hope TV. Excited to be here. My name is Kelly Burns. I am the program manager and art therapist for Stars of Hope USA. Welcome to our second interview, Dr. April Naturale. Thank you for being here.
Great. Thanks for taking the time to reach out, Kelly. It's a tough time for everybody, I know, but I think it's really important for us to have these conversations so that we can continue to connect and share good information.
Yes, definitely. Your background, you have a long history, 30 years of background of working with those in disaster situations. I wanted to ask you your thoughts and just impressions of like what's going on right now, and how it's impacting everybody, around the world, essentially.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's really not like anything that we've seen before. And so I think we're going to have some new lessons to learn. But as you've said, having been in other disaster situations, the large scale events like 9/11 and Hurricane Katrina, and in the past couple of years, training in the European Union for those humanitarian aid workers who are helping refugees, which is another huge, huge issue, as we all know. We do see some things that cross the boundaries of all of the events. And the primary thing is that human reactions to these events are the same, even though every event is different and unique. There are some likenesses to them, but they really are unique depending on the population they impact and where they happen geographically and just how they played out. But we do know that human responses, sadness is sadness, joy is joy, and that's the same in every country across the globe. So we can get a good sense of how we can help each other, because the research around disasters, which has been increasing over the past 20 years, without any doubt tells us that social supports are one of the most important things that help people recover from trauma and these emergencies and disasters. And so that is one thing unique to COVA, is that we're not able to have the physical closeness that would normally help us, the hugs and connecting with and being in the presence of someone who understands and accepts how you feel, and you feel their energy when you're together. So it's a bit harder for us to get that sense because we have to be physically isolating in order to get control of this virus. So that's a new issue for us. And I think, thank goodness for social media, that we're at least able to do things like this where we can see each other and get good cues and hear your voice, as opposed to, being on email or on text. So there are some good pieces of our current way of being that are really helpful at this time. I think it would have been very hard for most of us if we didn't have social media. Another really cool thing is to see what's happening in other countries and in other cultures. So, watching people sing together off their balconies in Italy, I don't think anybody would doubt that that was probably one of the best things we've seen forever in our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that people are continuing to do that kind of entertaining of each other and finding new ways to connect. I think that's one of the things we're going to take away from this horrific event. And also what you said before, this is not going to be over. And we're going to have these waves come and go. So hopefully we'll take all those lessons with us, because I think we're going to need them again as the virus increases at certain times, decreases at others. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to take some lessons away.
Yeah, it sounds like we're learning from past disasters, but also continuous, because there seems to be, it's disheartening that there's no end in sight seemingly, but we're learning as we go and building on those connections. And just it's almost strengthening and just building on those support systems, it sounds like, and that'll just make it even more, hopeful and bearable and doable. And, social media and the internet makes it a whole lot easier. And we can lean on that in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the takeaways that we'll probably carry with us through to the rest of our lives, that we can figure out ways to be together and to give virtual hugs and to rely on the good feeling of just talking to somebody who gets you, who understands how you feel and accepts how you feel, regardless of what's going on. Everybody perceives things differently. So we need to be in touch with folks who understand and accept how we feel so that we can continue to support each other. However we do that, cards and letters, social media, email, text, and even these types of interactions on the video to connect with real people about meaningful things. We hear lots of people saying they're finding a lot of gratitude, a lot of appreciation for things they took advantage of before, and also really stopping to check in with each other and saying, so how are you really doing? What can we do to help each other and support each other through this? Because what's most helpful, more than I can do all kinds of therapy, but we know from the research that social supports help people recover more than anything. So it's great that programs like Stars of Hope, you get these messages out. The narrative is important. You said you're an art therapist. It's also art therapy. It's getting people to be creative and use their art instincts and their narrative. So there are so many things that Stars of Hope does that are those types of things that can help people feel, we might not be thrilled that we're still at home and not able to go out and do the things that we did before. But if we can be creative, give a good narrative to others to let them know we're here and we support them, it really covers a lot of the types of interventions that we know help people get through emergencies and trauma and disasters like this.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what are any other thoughts on what we can share with, those that are watching and anyone else about just coping with just kind of because there's a sense of loss I think we're all feeling with everything that's happening. And certainly there's lots of different things that we can do, but there's still that feeling we've kind of lost something in this huge transition into this, I don't know, new norm, I suppose. I don't know. And I wanted your thoughts about, well, how can we help others or continue other ways we can support each other in that way?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because we need to do that for ourselves and for each other. We don't want people to be developing any major mental illness because they're trying to protect themselves by isolating. So You mentioned a couple things. I think one of the most difficult things about this is it's continuing to be a threat, right? Exposure and trauma is about our exposure to a threat of being seriously injured or killed, or somebody we love and care about being seriously injured and killed. And so I think we have to focus on the more positive messaging that says we can get through this. Because if we think this is terrible, this is awful, I'm stuck, I'm alone, that can cause more problems in ability to think clearly, to make decisions, to use good judgment. And then in our functionality, how are we interrelating with the people that we are in the house with or that we are connecting to on social media? So we know that it's going to be really important for us to understand that this is a heightened sense of fear and anxiety that's at a very high point for a long period of time. And so we've got to use coping skills that help us get through these times, because we know in other events that have had longer term effects, we start to see some more serious problems like domestic violence, substance misuse, and again, really poor decision making, poor thought process, isolation, which can lead to this sense of helplessness and hopelessness. And that, of course, feeds into the terrible suicide rates that we have in this country, another epidemic. So there are a lot of things for us to look for and to talk to each other about. We did a large scale study in Baton Rouge after Hurricane Katrina, and we were able to provide folks with different interventions to help decrease symptoms. But one of the most outstanding pieces of the study told us that most people had lesser symptoms the more good information they had. So it helped us to learn that information helps to decrease anxiety. So we want to continue to have conversations that the stress and the distress that people are feeling is a normal way to perceive this threat in the environment, but that we've got to give ourselves breaks from that, because the coronavirus is still out there and it's still a threat, but we can't stay at that heightened sense of anxiety all the time. Got to give ourselves a break, give ourselves a chance to de-stress, connect with others, go through our normal routines, and figure out what does make us feel better. So you might be afraid of going to the grocery store, and I might be afraid of going into the post office or going out of the house at all. We have to figure out what's going to make each one of us feel safe enough to do the things that we need to do and to continue to function in the long term.
Yeah, very much so. Any examples you've seen or heard so far of others bringing hope, sharing hope with others, or moments of healing that really stand out so far?
Oh, yeah, I think there are lots of those, which is the good news. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot more of those types of things happening than the negative things. There's enough negative with the illness itself, but I was really taken by the singing in the balconies and playing instruments in the balconies that we saw our Italian colleagues doing. And then New York picked up on it with clapping for the healthcare workers. I have to say, I hope that's another lesson that we get. You know, our healthcare workers are on the front line all the time. This is more so than ever, but this is how healthcare workers function all the time. They're not crying because they have to go to work or because they're busy. I think the problem is we need to make sure that they know that we support them. And so like these actions that have been taken of recognizing healthcare workers and giving them a clap every 7 o'clock at night helps people to function. We all want to have meaning in our lives, right? So to think that there's somebody out there that I can help, and then on top of it, to get some appreciation, that's what's going to keep us all going. But it's also the small things too, Kelly. I think so many more people have recognized they may have frail neighbors who need checking on or might need food delivery. I think we're seeing much more of the small community interactions just spontaneously happening all over, kind of the way they used to be when we functioned as small communities. And I hope that's a takeaway for us, that we continue with those relationships, because we've heard so many people say that they found more meaning than they've had before. They've connected more with family and appreciate them more, talk to them more authentically. So there's tons of good stuff that will come out of our having to have changed some of our habits that made us a little bit more distant from each other than is probably good for human beings.
Most definitely, yeah. Any last thoughts or words of encouragement we can share with our greater audience?
Yeah, actually, I want to make the point that a lot of the supports that we get are really some of the basic things that we can carry through with each other. Most people don't need mental health services after a disaster or a trauma. Probably about 90% of the people will do fine on their own. But
Mhm.
what we do know is that there's some things that help. So the first thing is talking to others who understand and accept how you feel, talking to others who connect with you and that you connect with. Body movement is also really, really important because stress is about these stress hormones going through our body, trying to give us energy that we need to run, or the focus to be able to freeze, or the power to be able to fight, right? Kind of those instinctual things that we have. When we don't do those things, the stress hormones build up and they become very toxic in our system. So body movement is really important, and it doesn't have to be heavy lifting. Actually, it shouldn't be. It's more of the breathing exercises that allow you to get the toxins out of your body. It's simple stretching. Some people do yoga, which is wonderful, but even simple stretching, again, to move the toxic hormones and the stress out of your body. And then other things like basically like walking. So even if you can't walk as long or as far as you used to because there are some restricted areas, to try and get out in nature for 10, 20 minutes every day. Or like we've seen some people do, kind of create paths around their house that they can go around and get some good air and keep the body moving. So some of those basics will carry us through, and look at what's happened before. And if there were things that helped you to cope, whether it's music or reading, writing, whatever you can do that you've done before that has helped you to cope, try and keep your routine and make sure that you're continuing to do those things. Routine makes us feel better, it makes us feel more comfortable and familiar. So, I mean, it's nothing wrong with learning something new, but it's also very good for us to keep our regular routines that make us feel safe and comfortable.
Very much so. Well, thank you very much.
Super. Thanks for the time to chat with you and for the work that you and the whole team at Stars of Hope is doing. It's a really wonderful way of messaging and sharing good thoughts and helping to support each other across the country.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Naturale, for joining us on Hope TV with Stars of Hope. And thank you, everybody, for joining us again. And we'll see you very soon.
Take good care, Kelly. Thanks
You
again.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.